This is what I call unintended bangs. Like, what do you do with this? Hey friends, and welcome back to another video. Today we are talking about postpartum hair loss. Yes, it's a real thing, unfortunately. And today we are going to talk about why it happens, when it happens, ways that we can avoid the severity of it, how we can cover up those random bald spots that we get if you are unfortunate enough to get one, and then how to deal with those pesky little tiny hairs as they're growing back. Our hair has 3 different stages for which it's constantly circulating through. That would be the growth stage, the resting stage, and the fallout stage. This happens randomly throughout our whole head, which is why we're always shedding hair, sometimes more than others, depending sometimes on hormones, on our diet, certain things like that, whether or not we're taking, certain vitamins. It can have a lot to do with a lot of things, but those usually, those cycles, those 3 stages cycle through normally throughout our life. When we are pregnant, due to hormonal changes and increased in blood supply, the fallout stage happens less often. So our hair is usually more luscious, and we lose a lot less of it. And then when we have a baby, our hormones take a big dip, a big drastic change from when we were pregnant, and those hormones cause the fallout stage to sort of happen all at once. So that is why we lose so much hair after we have a baby. It does have mostly to do with hormones, although they do say that the increase in blood supply during pregnancy can help the hair not fall out, and then when you're not pregnant, again, the blood supply is not as much, so that causes your hair to fall out. So it's blood and hormonal changes. The big dip in hormones happens within the first month of pregnancy, and then after that it takes just about 3 months for your hair to go from its resting stage into the fallout stage, which is why postpartum hair loss happens just around the 4 to 6 month mark. After I had my first baby, I lost a lot of hair, but I lost it from everywhere on my head. And so even though I could very clearly notice that there was a lot less hair on my head, obviously I saw it as it was falling out and it was everywhere, but I also noticed that my hair was a lot thinner. When I would put my hair up in a ponytail, there was just a lot less of it. But because it was sort of from everywhere, it wasn't really obvious to anybody else. I even mentioned it to my mom, and she said she didn't think it looked any different. My husband didn't really think it looked any different. To me, it was a drastic change, but it wasn't really that visible. I have a lot of hair anyway, so it wasn't like super obvious that it was, a lot. But when I had my second son, I got a big bald spot right on my hairline, right on my forehead right here. And I tried not to take pictures of it actually, because I thought that it looked so crazy, but if I do have any pictures, I will certainly insert them here so that you can see. But I had basically like a big square bald spot right here, and this is of course all the unintended bang that I have now. There's just a lot of little hairs. I mean, this is growth from my son that's 1.5 years old, so there's a lot less, or a lot more of it that I'm not showing now. But it did happen from everywhere on my head, but mostly just right there in the front, and so the change actually was pretty drastic and pretty obvious. I didn't really notice it as it started happening. Like, I wasn't like right away like, oh, there's a lot falling out from right here. It was falling out from everywhere. But it wasn't until a lot of it had fallen out already that I realized that I had a big balding, just a big square of missing hair right in the front. I wore a lot of hats then, but but today we're going to talk a little bit about ways that we can help cover it, especially when it's on the hairline. Now, because postpartum hair loss happens because of hormones and blood, there isn't really much that we can do to prevent it altogether, but there is a few things that we can do to help prevent the severity of it. One of those things is to continue to take your prenatal vitamins. This is something that your body, one, has been used to for a long time, but two, you can use to keep those nutrients and all of that good stuff going so that your hair doesn't fall out as much. Maintaining a healthy diet as well as a stress-free mind and body, as stress-free as you can be postpartum. But trying to help your stress levels and being as calm as possible is going to help a lot with the severity of your postpartum hair loss. And lastly, just make sure that you're very gentle with your hair during those first few months. Try not to use any harsh chemicals on it. Try not to bleach it. Try not to put a lot of heat on it when you are detangling. Make sure that you are working from the bottom and being very gentle with it. If you can, actually just finger detangle in the shower instead of using harsh brushes. Any extra pull that you can avoid on your scalp is going to be really helpful. Now, when you have unfortunate bald spots like I did, there is a couple ways that you can sort of disguise them or cover them a little bit, especially when they're on your hairline and you can't wear a hat or a headband. Those are actually a couple of good ways of hiding the bald spots and also hiding the random little spiky hairs that grow as it's growing back. But when you do have a bald spot or even thinning hair, using a colored dry shampoo can be really helpful. And then for smaller areas, you can use eyeshadow. Actually, it works really well in eyeshadow that's going to match your hair color. Of course, it depends on what hair color you have, but there's going to be an eyeshadow out there that's going to cover almost everybody's hair color, and you can cover that really quickly by just tapping a little bit of eyeshadow on there. They do sell actual products to cover up your roots, gray hair cover up little compacts, but it's basically the same thing as an eyeshadow. Maybe it's formulated to be more for hair. I don't know if that is a thing, but I don't really think it's necessary to spend a bunch of money on something expensive like that when eyeshadow works just fine. Now, when the hair is growing back, and it does happen to be around your hairline when it's the most visible, changing your part one way or the other could help cover that up. Using bobby pins or hair styling creams to sort of flatten those areas out so they don't spike up can also be really helpful. Also, not washing your hair as often can be really helpful, which is actually pretty easy to do when you're postpartum. But the more that you wash your hair when your hair is really fresh, it actually has a lot more volume, and so those little tiny hairs will stick out a lot more. Usually second, third, fourth day hair that has a little bit more natural oils in it will be able to flatten out a little bit better. Another one that I saw in a video pretty recently, which I don't happen to have one, but I might get one because I think they would be really useful, is these tiny little hair straighteners. I'm pretty sure that they sell them for baby hairs, and I know that they have them at Sally's. I've seen them and other beauty supply stores, but those little tiny hair straighteners you can use to curl your tiny little hairs under, or be able to curl them in whichever way you want them to hide underneath your other hair so they don't stick straight out. I think that could be really helpful. And as we talked about, worst case scenario, a bandana, a cute little headband, a cute little hat, something that can just cover it up all together can be really helpful for when you're in a pinch and you don't have time to cover up and straighten and flatten or whatever. Just cover it up and wait a couple months and it'll grow back. There are 3 other things that I want to mention in this postpartum hair loss journey of yours, things that I think are very important to remember. One is to remember to check all of your falling hair everywhere that is not getting wrapped around your baby's fingers. If you have a boy, you want to make sure that this hair is not getting in their diaper and wrapping around private parts. You want to make sure that you're checking your baby's toes and make sure that some of your hair isn't getting wrapped around there. I talked to my pediatrician actually, and I was telling him that I have this irrational fear of my hair ending up wrapping around my baby's fingers or privates or something, and he told me that that's actually a very common injury that he sees, is toes and fingers being wrapped around and hair, and parents bring their kids to the doctor because they don't know why their baby won't stop crying. Turns out a hair wrapped around one of their toes, and the toe is purple and obviously hurting them. Apparently it's a lot more common than most people think. So if your baby's you know, fussy and crying, this is something that I did a lot, and it's just get them fully naked and make sure they don't have any hair wrapped around everywhere or anywhere. And just make sure that you're careful, because you are losing a lot of hair and that hair can end up everywhere. Which brings me to number 2, and that is get yourself a really good hair catcher. I recommend this one right here. It is the tub mushroom, I believe, or tub shroom. I'll make sure to link it down below. It's amazing, it catches all the hair. But you wanna make sure you have something that is gonna catch the hair in your shower, otherwise you're gonna end up clogging everything and it's a pain in the butt. So get yourself one of those. And number 3, last but certainly not least, is if your hair loss is excessive to you, if you feel like you are losing way too much, make sure that you contact your healthcare provider, and they will be able to guide you a little bit better as to what you can do, and maybe even tell you if your hair loss is normal or not, and they can help you out a little bit better. So thank you guys so much for watching. I hope that you guys enjoyed today's video. If you did, give it a thumbs up, and let me know in the comments below, are you currently postpartum, and how many months postpartum or how many weeks or days postpartum are you right now? I want to hear all about it, and your brand new babies, all that stuff is really exciting. Let's chat down there. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell to be notified when we post next, and we will see you on the next one. Bye.